Hey there, fellow adventurers. Welcome to Tryst with a Werewolf. Are you ready to step into a world where the line between human and beast blurs? Here, we'll uncover the hidden tales of werewolves, their forbidden love, and their wild adventures. So, come along and let's embark on this thrilling tryst together. Chapter 22, Miss 35 Bullets. We walked until the sun was high in the sky and I was all but limping. Something about trying to hold my back still balanced out on my legs and made the opposite leg scream with raging coals. At a small clearing, I slumped against a large boulder. Then I can't go any further. My leg hurts. I rubbed over my thigh. Maybe my sciatic nerve. He came and bent down before me. His hands moved over my leg, watching my grimace. Hurt. I nodded and leaned back into the boulder. Can you carry me? You did yesterday. I signed baby and then reached around his shoulders. He stood and my grip was secure enough that I went with him. I wrapped my legs around his front and giggled even through the hurt. Okay, now you can go, Cha. He yelled. Noel. No, then N. He disentangled my limbs from him and set me back on the rock. I pouted. He bent down to eye level. Getting serious. No L. No, then N. Yes, L. Yes, Maza. No, Maza. I protested. Yes, Maza. Mazie, Maza. I grumbled, rolling my eyes. He nodded like I had agreed and pulled his basket off his back and rummaged through it. He handed me one of the onion white apples. I sighed and took the offering. Thanks. Guess lunch would be nice. He handed me a strip of dried dragon and began eating through some jerky of his own. He sat down a reasonable distance away from me. Really? I asked him. I was getting very irritated with his lack of contact. You can't even sit by me now. Am I really that ugly? You saw me half naked and now won't touch me. But I grinned knowing that was surely not the case. Let's see how ugly I am. Shall we? Quickly, I pulled my shirt over my head and tossed it to the ground. I kept my eyes on my apple, like it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen and kept munching. Wakiduma. I answered politely and brought my hair over my shoulder. Oh yes. I finally looked at him. He pointed to the shirt and lowered his eyebrows in warning. Something wrong, dear? I asked in a honey-sweet voice and then looked over my shoulder down my back. This wound just hurt so much with that shirt on. I figured I'd dare it out a minute. You don't mind, right? I mean you walk around shirtless. He stood and grabbed the shirt, tossing it in my lap. I got a little playful. What are you suggesting there? Banan. I just can't understand you when we don't speak the same language. I leaned back on the rock but puffed out my chest as I finished my apple in delight. I almost wanted to take my bra off. No, I didn't. Then N huffed and turned away from me, finishing his jerky. Eat wheelbarrow. I can't eat a wheelbarrow. I then sat up, all playfulness waning. I really can't then N. All this walking hurts. I looked at the sun high in the sky. It was going to waste a whole day, and I was down to 10 bullets in my pouch. We needed to get back to my supplies ASAP, but I couldn't do it. I bit my lip in defeat. Night day. Then to wheelbarrow. He turned back to me. Sleep. I nodded and looked at the grasses at his feet. I can't walk. No, I'll walk. Hurt. His eyes widened in alarm for only a second before he corrected to his blank face. I'll hurt. Walk day. Yes, I'm sure I surprised him. I walked until I blacked out with Aunt Flo's kind of pain, even with him badgering me to stop. If I was asking to stop, he probably thought I was dying. I twisted my knee around and grimaced. Maybe I was dying. He walked around me and touched delicately at my still bare back. I held my breath so I wouldn't hiss out in pain. Hurt, he commented and then walked back to his pack and dug out the white paste again. No, I shook my head. No medicine. Hurt little, I groaned. And I'll probably need to ration those meds. Let's just stop today. Medicine no. He nodded and replaced his bowl. Actually, I already longed for the morphine paste or whatever it was, but I had to be strong. We only had that one bowl and it would have to last a good few weeks with how deep the gash was. You could still carry me. I held my arms out like a toddler begging their parent. He twisted from me like he wouldn't even look. Stay. He motioned to the rock and started walking into the forest. Jerk barely left me alone to even pee the last day and now he needed to run. I was very tempted to run my butt the other way, but with my back and leg how they were, I pretty much could not move. At least I could go to a different rock. Maybe that would tick him off good enough. After a moment, I huffed. Now what? Sometimes he left for hours. I slid down the rock and sat on the ground, resting the good part of my back against it and let my legs relax. My eyes had closed, and the sun had traveled an hour over the sky when I opened them again. A strange soft crow had woken me. Much lower than any bird call on earth, and immediately my eyes scanned the area, looking for the source. And a grin tilted my face when I found its owner. Well, hello, Mr. Unicorn Chicken. Pleasant seeing you around. He was plump and round, almost like a beach ball. Brightly colored with a toucan-beacon single shimmering horn. I let my breathing get slow and movement still as I watched him. He was using his horn to scrape at a tree trunk covered in a purple moss. When bits of moss would fall to the forest floor in front of him, he would press around it with his beak and pick the pieces he liked best out of it. He really did have a chicken air about him tucking away. Something a moment later spooked him and he flapped his wings in warning away from his ball body. And when he was worried, so was I. If some hunter was tracking him, I was sitting on the ground with a messed up leg and cut open back. Talk about sitting duck. In the slowest of movements, I pulled the gun from my shoulder and pointed it the chicken's direction, darting the scope around at any slight leaf sway in the breeze. After a few minutes of nothing, I began to relax, but my gun was set and ready. Then ended of jerky left from me and DZW whatever dragon thing. But a nice roast chicken might make a good meal. Setting the scope on him and laying the butt of the gun firmly in the pocket of my shoulder, I tensed. It already pulled on my wound enough to bring a sneer to my face. The kickback from a fire was going to be a witch, but I better deal with it and try on the little guy instead of waiting and worrying about what it would be against a panda or something worse. My breath blew out as I timed the fire. The trigger was pressed. Third eye for bullets, two things happened. I missed, and the kickback nearly suffocated me with its scalding blow. My gun dropped to the ground and I cried out in anguish, grabbing the affected area. My eyes pressed tight and teeth set in a bone-breaking hold as I tried to keep in the pain. Breathing through my teeth was only a marginal help as I wailed. But I couldn't decide which hurt worse. I completely missed. It had been 6 years since I missed that close of a stationary target. This wound had done a number on holding my arm still. Next thing I know, a giant gray werewolf was crashing through the trees and on top of me, huffing like the big bad wolf. Holy! I screamed and forgot about my arm careening back into the rock with shock. Then I hollered out in pain again as the jagged edge sandpaper read my shoulder. Intelligent brown eyes set on me. The wolf shimmered for a flash. Suddenly the M was over me, pants less beside some dangling Tarzan cloth. Holy! I said again, but this time for a completely different reason. It'll hurt. He bent and tammed down my hair. Yeah, what? I tried not to stare. I couldn't see his package, but he was assuredly well endowed and right in front of me. When my oh-so-obvious fumbling became apparent to him, he chuckled and stood, reaching into his pouch and unwrapped his pants. He placed them back on and then tired his throat as if he just remembered he was not supposed to be playful anymore. With the distraction put away, I remembered my shoulder and hiccuped the hurt. My other hand pressed into the area to ease the burn. Shoulder hurt. He bent back and pulled me from the rock, placing his warm hand over my shoulder blade. As soon as he did, the pain dulled. I closed my eyes in relief and hunched forward, giving him better access. He stilled for a moment and then stood, taking with him my relief. "Wait," I called in hopelessness. He rummaged around his pack and brought out a leather pouch. With a pour of water into it, he stirred the substance with his finger and then poured it into his hand. It was a dark green-colored paste. "Is that the heal leaves?" I asked as he slid the paste over my back. I tensed at the coldness, but was soon lulled into relaxation when his medical hand turned into a massage hand. He smoothed over my muscles and deep into tissues, following patterns like I had done to him one night in a tree. Oh, it was heavenly. Warm, large hands hitting all the right spots and easing the tension away from so many nights without a bed and walking for days. I leaned forward, allowing him all the access he wanted, and was even tempted to undo my bra strap. But I was sure he wouldn't like that, so I tried to just feel the glorious moment. When he sat back before I was ready for him to be done, I looked over piteously and sighed. "Nor." "All done." I pointed to my leg and pouted. "But my leg hurts too." He smiled, that grin, the one that said I was being irritation. Alan chucked my shirt back at me. "Shoulders." Sighing, I placed the shirt over my head and adjusted it slowly over the paste on my back. "Better Dothraki." And then he put his hands on my leg. He rubbed up and down, palming over my jeans and making up his own massage technique. My head fell back against the rock and I made a growl of appreciation when he rolled over a particularly sore spot. He stopped, hands still in around my thigh. "No, it's okay. It's really good. Like, no hurt. Keep going, please." Without looking up, I placed my hands over his. "Please." His hands continued their kneading, like he was painting a piece of art. He worked so tenderly and so thoroughly. One would think he'd been trained. Then, so good. I whispered to the sky. When he went up and down my first leg, he moved over to the next and I was all but a pool of melted jelly next to a rock. My breathing was deep and low and he kept pushing me into some different dimension. I probably was nearly asleep when his hands came off me and he murmured, "L." "Yeah," I mumbled back. The snapping sound of a smile brought my eyes open and a yawn to my chest. "Good." I smiled and stretched through my fingers. He was grinning a sunny smile. "No hurt." I moved my foot around a bit and twisted at my knee and hip. "It's lots better. Thanks." He looked at the rifle beside me. "Are you MDUM Awak Udu Makawi Zulu?" "Meat." "Oh, you mean did I kill anything?" I grabbed the rifle across me. "Kill." I looked down at the metal and bit my lip. No, meat. I missed. I ranted to myself. I can't believe I missed. It was such an easy target. Completely still and barely far away at all. My eyes met Ben empathetically and I made my admittance. I missed. No meat. Shoulder hurt. No kill. Yeah. But hey. I tried to look on the bright side. At least nothing ate me. It was just a chicken. I'll eat. I guess I am a little hungry, yes. He nodded once and went to his pack for a snack. Chapter 23, Roach's third for bullets. Late into the night, I woke up by the fire to see that the N was sleeping close. A smile pierced my lips as I watched his sleeping form. He seemed so innocent. Like he was not the Dothraki dragon killer I first met him as. Now he was just a sweet sleeping boy, trying to stay warm next to the fire. I stayed watching him a few moments and noticed his arm was reaching out toward me as he was using it for a pillow. He had still been so standoffish about touching, even though he helped with the superb massage earlier. Anytime we were walking, he would refuse my touch, stating that Maza was Wakyuduma's mate. I think I was finally getting that Wakyuduma was a pet name he'd given me. Much like I called him Dothraki, I was very annoyed of Maza now. but maybe in sleep that N wouldn't refuse me. I was on the fur blanket, so I scooted to my side and inched off of it, reaching for him. My fingers slid over his and gripped into his palm. Then N mumbled a content sigh in his sleep a moment before his fingers squeezed around mine. A soft smile came to his face, extra handsome in the reflected glow of the fire. If I didn't think he'd wake up, I'd scoot even closer and trace the shape of his face, but I figured I'd leave well enough alone. I watched his soft face until my eyelids were hard to keep open and fell back asleep. I did not get to sleep long. Slight tickles ran across my face and arms, and I flipped them away, still half asleep. The tickles continued. "Stop it," I mumbled to my brother, trying to play the shaving cream and feather prank him. He said, then yelled at me, "Ukufak ubihame. Izim bungalo ziokufael." Suddenly my face and arms were being swatted at. "Stop it," I mumbled again and moved my arm to push him away. It was not my brother's voice that chastised me. No sleep. He yanked me by my arm clear into the air and my eyes flew open. Pain like someone scraping a scrub brush into my wounds dug deep into me. From my back, to my arms, to my cheeks, all were on fire. I noticed then and then, large hand, slapping off a full swipe of thick, crusty roaches off my arm. My top was covered in those same roaches that swelled around my roasted skunk. I screamed. The shriek rose clear to the mountain tops and I began slapping roaches away. Then my feet were under me and then I no longer had to hold me up. So in one of his flash movements, he twisted around me and tore my shirt clear off, throwing the whole writing mess to the last of the fire. I was too busy hitting bugs off me to even care my shirt was gone, or the horrible high-pitched sound of the roaches as they baked. The Nen raced around me, picking off each insect and giving them a fiery grave until we both stood panting in the fire's glow. I couldn't function. What the EFF was wrong with this world? Gross. My face buried in my hands to hide from everything, but the moment my cheeks touched skin I recoiled in pain. My fingers slipped over my cheeks and came away dotted with red. It was like 1,000 paper cuts had scratched into my flesh. Then big watery eyes looked his way. He sighed his scare away and pulled me into his arms in an embrace. He pammed down my hair but avoided touching my back. Safe. I moved my arms to dig deeper into his hug, but instead he grabbed my wrists and slowly twisted me around to grab onto a large tree limb. Medicine. Stay. Frowning, but resolved, I nodded and squeezed my fingers into the rough bark. I tried to concentrate on its scraping texture at my palms instead of the fire along my shoulders. Cold, he cautioned, and then spread the paste over my shoulder and all along my back. My teeth clenched to hold the sound in, even though he was trying to be delicate. Still, I made mewling sounds as the medicine was spread. Following the path of his working, I slowly turned to look over my shoulder to notice the roaches had put thousands of tiny slashes into my skin. Almost crying from pain and humiliation, I asked the N. I guess they smelled the blood on me. I twisted a hand around and grabbed the loose bra strap, and they ate through my bra. I let the strap fall back and looked again forward. Letting my face fall forward into the limb, I tried to ignore my pain. I was a mess. Then N started rubbing the paste down my arms and eventually lifted my face to do my cheeks. Am I done? I asked him dolefully. He stepped away to his basket and brought out a handful of yellow. My sight set back on the dark tree limb and I waited for the stretching of more stitches to be pulled against my back. I whimpered with every movement, even though the paste was now muting most of the pain. How much was I supposed to deal with on this planet? Was I supposed to learn something? Learn that my emergency preparedness training was crap. My head started to feel numb and my hands went cold. It was almost fever cold. Whatever. Then N stepped away and grabbed the blanket I was laying on from near the fire. He wrapped it strong around my shoulders, and I didn't resist. I just held it to me. Then N then lifted me, nearly a balancing act with one arm around me and the other pulling us up the same tree. He found a branch that suited him and leaned back against the main trunk, holding me like a cuddled baby to his chest. "All safe," he whispered husky into my hair, and nuzzled down. There was no ounce of soul to complain in my body, and I nearly collapsed into him. I was dying for his touch. "Shh. Sleep." I nodded into him and clung to his shoulders. Even with the thousands of new scrapes, I was finally at ease, like he was a balm to every pain. "Night." His lips moved over my forehead, and I could almost imagine it as a good night kiss. I was able to fall asleep buried in a soft smile and not pain. I woke with the first rays of sun, and a twittering call of birds in a far-off tree. I breathed in a relaxed and refreshed breath. N was still asleep but looked very locked against the large tree. Guess I never needed to be worried that we fall with him as my safety belt. My arms were covered in the white paste, though it was dry now. Looked like old sunscreen. But at least it wasn't hurting. It was a wonderful number. I let a finger lift to my cheeks and the paste had dried there too. I hope he kept some of that. Seems like all I do is get hurt. A noisy morning yawn came from me, and then N's eyes opened slow and easy. "Max by my faded night." Lights flashed around me and my wound spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. I smiled. His returning grin was one of pure warmth, and his big hand wrapped around my face and brought me to his lips. It was the first time he had kissed me since my back got hurt, and I reveled in it. Every taste was drunken like my favorite ice cream. My kiss to him became heated and a haze slipped over me. His tongue danced across mine. My hands pulled against his neck and I situated myself laying astraddle over his lap. I moaned into his mouth and he grinned against my lips. His hands held wide at my sides and a hand started roaming up my back. When his fingers brushed over a shut, up-stitch leaf, I tensed at the strain. Every movement of his froze under my touch. He gripped my arms and pulled me back from him. Eyes wide. "No Ozefes ain walk you duma." My heart dropped. "No," I complained back. "No more walk you duma. Kiss." He turned from me and spoke flat. "Walk day. Wheelbarrow." I deflated with a heavy sigh. "Okay, I guess." I started to get off of him to climb down myself, but he tightened a grip around my waist and carried me down instead. "Thanks," I said weakly. At least I could get my own feet on the ground. I twisted around my shoulder, and even with the gross bugs it felt better today than it had even with the fresh cover of white paste yesterday. Maybe I earned some of the freaky healing after all. Maybe it was just the end snuggle time. I was feeling pretty good about it until I saw a dead roach from the night still by the fire. It gave me the heebie-jeebies and I shuddered, feeling like they were crawling across me with their little digging legs right now. I gave a small gag. Elvin N dashed beside me. I put my hands up. "I'm okay. Just bugs are gross." I kicked it into the blackened fire pit, though there were still about 20 dead bug carcasses scattered across the ground. Grabbing my rifle from the ground, I couldn't believe I had just left it there. But then remembered first I was covered in biting insects, and then was covered in a handsome alien's arms. Guess it was very easy of me to forget. I giggled. When he was certain I wasn't going to fall over or bar for whatever he was worried about, he stepped to his basket and brought out the water pouch. He handed it to me. "Drink." Yep, I took it from him and after a large gulp, gave it back. "Stay." "Stay." We both said at the same time. I grinned at my mimic, knowing it was coming. "Stay," he reiterated with a cheeky smile. "Can I have a goodbye kiss first?" I lifted an eyebrow. His face fell in a shake of no. "Kiss no." I nodded and walked the steps to him, wrapping my arms around his shoulders and toying with the tips of his hair. "Kiss." "Yes, walk you duma." No, he pammed my sides and pushed me a step away. I wasn't wearing a shirt, just a half-shouldered bra, and when he realized he felt skin, his hand shot back to his own side. making my eye roll a wide and generous show. I grumbled. Stay. He pointed to the big boulder I sat against yesterday and ran for the trees near the other side of the clearing. I leaned against the boulder for a second like a good little girl and let him get off on his escapade, then decided it was best to play my own little hike. The clearing was down in a slight ravine, so I climbed to the top to find the wheelbarrow peak and pointed myself that way. I was getting more bold about walking through the land. Heck, I was covered in roaches last night. A speeding panda didn't seem too bad anymore. When I had guessed I had hiked about a mile away from camp, I came upon a patch of the same potato plants that were around my truck. Hello, friends, I told the tubers and dusted a few off. I stashed it into my skunk wipe pouch and ate another while I walked. I kept my mind vigilant as I listened for the Nen to come up on me. Well, either him, or some other spooky creature. Another mile and my breakfast eaten, I came to the crest of a hill where I could see over the treetops below. It was a gorgeous view. The greens of the trees so saturated. I've never imagined a color like it on Earth. Pinks, teals, and purples were also spotted throughout, and a large lake to the far east was a burnt orange color. It almost made me pause and want to walk to it instead. What would make a lake orange? Or is that just a natural color that happens to be water on this planet? Even on Earth, some places you could find pink lakes. I sat down to let the Nen catch up, and couldn't help but smile at the tantrum he'd have as soon as he knew I wasn't where he'd left me. How's it feel to be abandoned there than NY, boy? I snickered and then saw a large leaf holding tight to a branch on a nearby tree that was faced right for me. It was a teardrop shape and had yellow veining like any basic leaf at home, waiting in the breeze. Twisting the rifle from my back, I pointed and aimed at it. My aim did feel off as my shoulder didn't want to keep my usual stillness. I sighed and put the rifle down to my lap. Desperately, I wanted to take a few practice shots and earn my aim again. But I only had 9 more bullets with me. Back in my supplies, I had another 20 or so, but that wouldn't do me much good. Really, what was 30 in the grand scheme of things? Maybe it was time to learn the bow and arrow. But before I could start a search for bow materials, a long howl vibrated into the air from a few miles away. It caused me to snicker out loud and then dash up the nearest tree as far as I could go. 20 seconds later, the Nen came trotting up to my tree in human form. He looked irate as he scaled the branches and sat in front of me. I just grinned high. No stay. Max Brady, my hated mate. Lights crashed around me and the room spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. Taking a deep, fake, thoughtful breath in, I agreed. Yeah, I didn't feel like it. No stay. No stay. Not safe. Then and walk you do me safe. Yeah. I rolled my eyes. Walk you. L not safe no but N. I breathed out and twisted my torso away. I think it was just fine without the N. He grabbed my arm roughly and pulled me towards him. I complained and shuffled to keep my balance in the tree. I slapped his grip off me. Too hard, Rambo. His voice was clear. L stay the N. Safe. Humula and Cucubacia len Kosa and I Maza and Goku Phepha. Why, I miss Anyami. Maza. I groaned at the only word I understood. Wakiduma made Maza. He repeated strong in my face. Forget it. I spat back. I don't care about some stupid Maza guy. And I leaned forward and kissed him. He pulled clear away. No Maza mate, no. You liked it this morning. You kiss me. You want to kiss me. You just keep stopping because of the stupid other guy. No kiss. He threatened, eyes slitting. Yes, kiss. My eyes slit right back. He growled and just started down the tree. And then like kiss Al. I yelled at his retreating form. He didn't comment. He just leapt to the ground and held his form tall and towering, waiting for me to come down. Jerk. When I made it down beside him, he left me to grab his basket and I stood in place. Cut. He commanded and pointed beside him. He was aimed back to the way we came. I was not going to Maza. No, I crossed my arms and held my ground. Wakadumnaha. I'm not answering to that Dothraki. Admit it. Then I'm like Skissino. His fist clenched, though he was still turned away. See, come kiss me then. He turned and stepped the purposeful steps toward me. My heart started racing, thinking maybe he understood and was coming to kiss me, when his thick hand grabbed around my upper arm and started tugging me. His strength pulled me from my feet and I had to shuffle to keep myself upright. He kept pulling and started taking us the way I'd just walked. Hey no. I started complaining. Wheelbarrow. No Maza. I recoiled. You said yes, wheelbarrow. Maratspy. My fated mate. Lights flashed around me and my wounds spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. Waki Dumino safe. I'm just fine Dothraki. He kept dragging and I started to pull on him to escape his hold. I tugged and leaned, but he was solid and taking my running feet with him. Stop. I yelled no. Eldo. No, you brute. With another 15 seconds of fighting, I was getting nowhere. Fine. If you want me to go to Maza so bad, you'll just have to carry me. I crossed my arms and stopped my feet, bracing for my face to meet the ground. I stilled, hoping that N would use his freaky fastness and hold me up. He did. Thank goodness. Though I didn't show it. Hopefully I had his stoic mask on. He lifted me to my feet, but I curled the toes of my boots inward so that he had nowhere to set me. I'll walk. Walk, wheelbarrow. Then N baby carried a Maza. He stilled for a moment, trying to process my words, and looked back. No walk. I stuck my tongue out at him and then went limp in his grasp. You could drag me too. He growled and set me down on the ground. His hands dug in his hair in anger. I held my arms out, invitingly. Do you want to carry me to Maza? Dothraki? He growled again and folded his arms. I knew he was trying not to touch me. Carrying me would surely war his conscience. I laid back into the grass, bandage-covered wound digging in the dirt. Guess then I better get some roaches to eat El. Goodbye, El. He cried and picked me back up, and in the fast movement, I automatically put my feet to standing. He pointed angrily. Walk, El. No, I stood back on my heels. Kiss me. He panned over his face, and then all anger fell. His words were finally soft. He had exhaled no. Then N no kiss El. No safe. Maza El mate. I don't care. I grumbled back, letting my own anger fall. I'm not going. Maza go. Maza no. Wheelbarrow. I pointed back. Maza go. No Maza. I'm going to my wheelbarrow. And I just turned and started walking the way to the peak. He sneered, and suddenly I was tossed over a shoulder on top of the fur like he still didn't want me touching him, though his grip on my thigh was very hands-wide. Let me go. I hit on his back. He began racing through the woods. Yes, I'll go. Maza mate walk you Duma. There would be no getting out of his hold. And while he was carrying me, I wanted bridle hold, not toss you over my shoulder because you're a brat hold. Fine. Well, if I'm a brat, I learn it. I put my fingers to my lips and curled my tongue, doing the loudest farm whistle I could manage with my eating knocked from my lungs on every step. I did the nuns to note exclamation twice before he stopped, pulled me off, and held me tight against him, a hand blocking my mouth. You yell on ya. Young Kim by Sisma me Ella as a kuzuez. He cried and then showed his teeth in a feral act. His voice was a forced whisper. Werewolf he rell. I just lowered my brows and glared at him. What do you think I was trying to do, Dothraki? I signed. Wheelbarrow. Walk. No Maza. Starting up the best creamy throat noise I could do with his hand on my face. I stared him dead on. Wheelbarrow. We glared. Eyes met in some extreme standoff. He glared back for only a minute before he burst out in the loudest guffawing laugh I'd ever heard him make. His hand came away from my face. An Encani. Undumling a Winoski. But being laughed at in the middle of a fight, I bristled. What are you laughing at? Doth Rocky. He signaled to walk on the way of the peak. Back to my wheelbarrow. Q Hubeka. Don't make me whistle again. I put my fingers to my mouth. He chuckled. Shayla. Enin gasi benzizayas izio alita ukaizauml and gani winoski. I still sneered at him. When he stared expectantly with his stupid grin, I went ahead and whistled again. He nodded like he was impressed. It was not the reaction I wanted. I did it again. He cupped around his mouth and hollered his notes to the air too. Fine. I yelled that I cupped my own mouth. Werewolf come tell. He just chuckled and shouldered his basket. Thy wheelbarrow. And started walking to the wheelbarrow way. Really fast. I was left puzzling his mood swings before he was clear out of sight, and I jumped to scramble after him. Hey, wait up. Every step of mine put him 5 in front of me, and even running, I wasn't catching up. A growl again came from my throat and I slowed to a walk, my lungs on fire and my chest huffing oxygen in. Okay, you win. I couldn't run anymore. The heavy breathing hurt my shoulder too much. I sighed and just kept walking forward, now completely lost without him. He moved like a ghost. The trees were too thick to see him ahead and he walked silently. There weren't even any prints in the ground cover to track, so I just picked away and went. I walked alone for 20 minutes figuring that N was just going ahead and would make camp eventually. When I came upon a small flowing stream and extremely thirsty, I yelled into the air, N, can I drink this? I waited for his returning call but heard nothing. Did you really abandon me? Ugh, you suck. I shook my head and bent for a drink. A golden fish swam away from my fingers and I jumped clear back a foot. Good grief, you stupid stinkin' fish. You scared me. But when I saw his fishy friend against a rock, I was reminded of then and catching similar golden fish with his bare hands. I wanted to try. I was sure any human would have exactly 0 luck against Dothraki fishing pole fingers, but I was really needing to learn other ways to feed myself that didn't include guns. Laying down at the bank of the stream, I pushed my long hair back and placed my hands in the cool water, right at the overflow of a rock where the water could be deeper. When the fingers of my left hand grazed the bottom, I shrieked like a shark bit me. Then I had to laugh and remind myself I didn't need to be a girl in this situation. I could touch a fish. In fact, I was going to grab it and eat it as sushi. So yes. Note being a girl. Laying very still, I sat for a solid 10 minutes before a fish swam up to the spot my hands were. My lip got bitten into big time when that darn thing touched me at first. I was not going to scream. Maxbree, my fated mate. White splashed around me and my wind spun with the beat of the pretty techno music the DJ was playing. 2-1. I closed my hands as fast as I could, but water just swished between my grasp. A silent curse spat from my mouth, but I wouldn't be discouraged. I put my hands in and tried for more times in the next hour. When the 5th dinner swam away, I yelled at the water, darn it, Dothraki. This shouldn't be this hard. Taking another drink, I sat up and stretched, but I was persistent. I was getting that fish. Really, by this time an N was surely so far away, I'd have no chance to catch up. He'd have to find me anyway, and I didn't have any reservations that he wouldn't. Okay. Maybe I did. My eyes searched the trees, hoping to get a glimpse of him. Jerk better come get me. He'd been missing for over an hour now. Banen, I called loud to the treetops. But only a bat frog called back. I did the 2-note whistle. Nothing. Okay, well you better get me before a saber-tooth does. And went back to my fishing. I was getting better as the next hour went by. I had caught a particular fish 6 times. Once even clear out of the water before the flapping tail spooked me and it fell back in. and it was the same fish still swimming around now. I was beginning to think he was a dummy and wanted to get caught. Maybe fish were smarter here and he was playing. I put my hands in again, and within minutes he was back between my grasp. Gotcha. I lifted him out of the air and basked in the brilliance of gold. But then it flattened. Like a girl, I again threw it back in with a squeal. In an instant I was hauled to my feet and a blanket was thrown around my shirtless shoulders. I couldn't even catch up with the motion before the N was in front of me, standing in a fighting stance. Ice strong and threatening at an evergreen tree. Back, Spidey, my fated mate. White splashed around me and my wind spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. I tried to start. Quiet. He signed to me, but still staring at the spot. His shoulders tensed and fingers turned to wolfen claws. Then, I asked, now nervous, staring between the tree and the points at his fingers. Quiet. Clutching the blanket around my shirtless top, I huddled low behind him. If he was on edge, I was too. A peak between his chest and elbow showed a gray blur running into our space. Another werewolf had appeared. Chapter 24, Can't Understand Third Eye for Bullets. My heart fell to my stomach. The new wolf stood tall and chest-heaving, teeth showing in a fight. Gray and nearly 6 feet high of thick muscle. I couldn't scream. Another werewolf. It did come to eat me. Stupid Eleanor, and you're whistling. What the freak did you think would happen? Dropping the blanket, I swirled around for my gun. I didn't even have it to my eye before the N laughed a delighted sound and stepped forward. Kane. Kane. I knew that name. How did I know that name? I tried to press the chill away and my thoughts zoomed in. Kane. 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 Oh, Kane. It was an N's family. The wolf's mouth turned to a sloppy grin and he changed to a man before my eyes. A very scantily clothed man. Again with the Tarzan scraps boys. GAH put on some den clothes. I looked away until they were both in an embrace. Yan a wathandu. The other man laughed and patted his back. The other man was just shorter than an N, but still NB at all. Skinnier muscles but streamlined like a swimmer. He was still incredibly fit and tan. Long hair skimmed about his shoulders as the N and Tim did some patting handshake. My gun was hovering around my nose watching them, when the N turned a hand my way. Lona NGUL. He realized my state of unrest and sped forward, replacing the gun to my shoulder and blanket around my chest. The other man stepped forward, a sweet boyish grin upon his face. Sawabano. NGIE Kane. As I stared, then N shook his head to his brother. Akakiwandi. Yula Hulcher Yindedo Yaki. Kane surveyed my hands, then put his own forward to shake, voice a rich tenor. Hello. My name is Kane. I was momentarily stunned remembering the N's grand entrance, but then put my hand in his high. I'm L, he echoed. Then, with his fingers still clenched around mine, wrapped his other around mine to enshot a knowing grin to the N. O's if no muhol. Then N nodded proudly, before shaking his head out and getting a serious worry. Chan go we noski. Unos if waki duma. Kane's hands went limp over mine. Izami changed to horror. O's if mokaduchem. Not that again, I grumbled to myself. Kane bent quicker than a hummingbird to one knee and bowed, though both hands still held tight around mine. O's if waki duma. Inzikosukinwes. He spoke humbly to my toes. Benin echoed the words and bowed to me as well. O's if waki duma. Inzikosukinwes. Oh, good grief, I told the heavens, trying to release my fingers from Kane's hard grip. I couldn't. Get up, boys. When neither moved, I put my foot under the N's eyes and wiggled it. The N, wake up. Get up. This is ridiculous. Yes, Earth female. Pretty. Okay. but I realized it wasn't my foot that N was looking at. He was staring at Kane's hands clutched around mine. I slit head in distaste. Was he not liking Kane holding me? Well, hello. A simmer of a smile touched my lips. Did I detect a bit of the green-eyed monster? Impulsively, I did what any Earth girl would do to make their Earth boy jealous. At least what they would do in the movies. Quickly, I stepped forward, finally pulling my fingers from Kane's grasp and lifted his face and kissed him. Long and hard. He was not kissing back. His body was frozen in shock. But I was holding on and kissing him. Not even 5 seconds had passed before he was torn from my grasp and had him down in the stream, kicking and punching. Kane tried to hit him off, which only resulted in both going face in the water. They came up sputtering, and then N was staring at me in confusion. Well, that went perfectly. I winked, and probably was grinning like the cat that ate the canary. His brow came down as if he knew he was tricked and growled. He stood, offering a hand to Kane. Both sloshed out of the water and onto the bank. Guess we won't be eating fish for dinner. I snickered. Then N's dangerous eyes never left mine, and he came right up and stood tall, hovering in front of me. He looked furious and scary. Oh shoot, did I take it too far? Kane had a girlfriend that passed away. Oh no, I wasn't thinking about that part. Just that I wanted Ben to be jealous. I was about to take a fast backtrack and apologize. But then the Nen was kissing me. Lips brought down in a rush against mine. It was completely animal. All claiming and brutal, I followed every move. My fingers glided up over his wet muscular arms and teased at his neck as his tongue pressed toward mine. I moaned into his mouth. How could I so thoroughly forget how good kissing him was? His fingers tugged into my hair, pulling the pony to the front and caressed down the locks, stroking delightfully. It was wild, and also over. He pulled away and stood back a few paces. He didn't stop looking at me, but I knew I read regret within the other emotions. The Nan, I asked soft. Did you really not want to kiss me? Wakidima. It was like any basic greeting. Its tongue. Kane looked between us and shrugged. He had his long pants on now. Then he hit the N's chest. Face lit up with delight. Kulangai Eli. That N eyes eu kakuti hoa. You lolly noma the bathe nang any waiabo. Okay, you Billy. Fata yani into ambiuzane. Then N's face fell in shock and then he'd around it with excitement. Eyes in e. Akakul kayimaniake. Anji kolwa. Kayamangolisa. His eyes glisten with joy. Ngazikal. I gamalak he and Gu. And lango kibanam la futi hayubis windo Sarah and Gu mama kamali. Then nodded appreciatively. You and Lanosara. Amagama a mehil. I spoke out loud, but basically to myself. I need to learn more Indawo. Then N and Kane both turned and then unchuckled, face still alight with glee. El Molly Maith baby. To baby. In-law male. Sarah female. My face followed their delight and I bounced to my tozo. Molly and Maith had twins. Oh my gosh. That's so sweet. I pointed to the tree Wolfie Kane appeared from. El go Molly. Baby. Baby. Kane turned to the N. Way easy oath and I. He chuckled. Ngazi fu wallo ke hue ks horo. KFSISA and equizinai sikat high. Kane looked me over. Muhal ka hulu. Then N grinned and eyes traveled over my body. Ye bow. Ka hulu. I rolled my eyes and rocked on my heels. Okay, boys. The conversation is cute and all, but I have no frickin' clue what you're saying. Non-lilo. Kane grinned, then I nodded. Man if una yuka yuma is a n cos I. And gek hemi az amthol wheelbarrow. I perked knowing at least one word. Yinai, wheelbarrow. Boys. Both looked at me with smiles. Sounds good to me. Let's go get my wheelbarrow. With 2 of you, I won't have to carry a thing. Then N stepped forward and smoothed down my hair. Nyabo. UN elongal ego ydmh lang wak he. Afuti hilo khu. He held out my gun. UK uduma. Afuti hayap hedium lilo. Eng impewa. Akenji ikubo eyes. Kane looked expectant to me, with wild, excited eyes. English, please. I cried. Kane CL fire. I turned to Kane's pleading. He's never seen fire. Fire. Yes, matches. Oh, matches. That's what he wants. Okay. I started digging around in my pouch until I found my lighter and brought it out. I made a dramatic show like Tom Hanks in Castaway and clicked it on. Fire. Look what I have created. I have made fire. Kane took a breath in surprise and then glanced at the N with a grin. Milyane. You bamba lilo. Then N nodded and patted Kane's shoulder. And gab you funny you kun is izianyam by a sail and kosai ni. Kane's face fell and he shortened. Oh, inikos lisa. And giding a yuka you by ella easy ingnan I. Yuma the udineas izio. Yuvia kalake kehulu. But N saddened. Eng empewa. And gidneas eyes ionami. You guys are driving me crazy here. Then N glanced back to me and grinned. Eat meat. He turned to Kane. Okanjene nih lala udila is it losakas ihowa. Kane nodded. Eat meat. I smiled with surprise. You speak English too. English. I giggled. Do you sing? I started head, shoulders, knees, and toes and both followed along until we were all laughing. Then N squared his shoulders. Then N. Tane. Elfish. He pointed to the stream. I shrugged. Sure. Get out of here, Dothraki. Fire meat. Then N got wide-eyed and serious. Fine, fine. Dothraki. I rolled my eyes. Don't want Wako Dumail sick again. And I'm sure he was telling the story of my food poisoning as they ran to the trees. An hour later, I had caught the stinking fish. Yo, take that, you gill breather. I held tight and got him up to a rock and gave him a quick end with my paketnif. Then started a fire. The boys came back as the fire was large and ready with a skin something. Both were wearing full pants as they emerged from the trees. Buzi. I asked at the creature, my fish on a stick roasting over the flames. Goat was pretty much the only word I could remember in his language. No she. As I looked over the carcass, it looked like a giant turkey. Could have been an emu or even ostrich. Cool. In sty. I agreed and the two hauled it to a teepee from over the fire. Sounds delicious. Then Ed and Kane had been talking all night long and the language barrier was less bothering me now. I was pretty much ignoring their conversation. It was like when my toddler niece babbled on and to only pick out one of 20 words. Although with them I could barely place 1 in 50. I knew they talked about my back and the dragon at least. Kane must have asked then N a deep question because he stopped his eating over a massive ostrich breast and stared at me. I pretended to be really enjoying pulling the meat away from my part of the wing. Then N's voice was all gravel and sexy, but a hint of sad undertones. Ngia yam thana. Kfa ainge kabing go wami. Nga that high. Nkosi you maza ay sos yazi. Then N was still looking at me. Kfa Indaba iq hawili wise akuyi. Any equa. Hai Nkosi. Kane nodded and patted his back. La koke uzi obien's ima. Ngi bona yuka uti hayui amth, and nj oben njang amareokee. I turned to them, firelight dancing between us understanding the last word. Mata okee. Kane nodded a happy sigh. Love mate. Mata okee love Kane. I did yes. Kane then looked at that N, a suggestion through his eyes. Then N stood. Night. Kane Domali. I'll sleep. I sat up straight. Wait. I want to go see the babies. I'll go, Molly. I'll go, baby. Then N shook his head and tossed the fur close to the fire. No, I'll go. I'll go, wheelbarrow. But babies, I complained. Kane cut in. Molly far. I'll go to Maza. Molly come to Maza and L. I smiled when his meaning showed. She'll be at Maza. Then N nodded excitedly yes. Unless ergo Maza. I thought I caught a wink Kane sent in an N but decided to ignore it. At least I'd be getting my supplies back and we could see Molly after. But babies, wow. I couldn't imagine raising babies in the wilderness. After a few more hours, Kane needed to leave. I really wanted to go with him, but apparently, I walked too slow, and the N still refuses to touch me. I was tempted to ask Kane to wolf out and carry me away, but the story of his girlfriend getting bitten by a werewolf and bleeding to death was too clear in my mind. The thought of bringing up his pain hurt me. So it was back to the wheelbarrow and walking myself to my doom. At least I knew I'd see Molly and the babies when we get to the Maza person. Still, when Kane hugged me to say goodbye, I left a lingering kiss on his cheek until Ben growled. By Kane, I waved my fingers as he stepped through some trees and stripped his pants. He rolled them into a tube and shoved them into his pouch. Wakiduma. Kane gestured a head bow and then transformed into his wolf counterpart, taking off faster than one of my bullets. He did not take off his Tarzan's scraps, which I was grateful for, or his pouch. I twisted my fingers down in the band at my own pouch and realized it was much stretchier than I had given it credit for. And that must be how they carry things when they're wolfed out. The Nen's voice was dark and foreboding, a warning in that one word. I chose to ignore him and played with the stretch on my band some more. He reiterated louder. And stretch, stretch, stretch. Taking a step toward me, he yanked my shoulders to look at him. Gosh. What? You don't have to be so rough all the time. I'll kiss Kane. No, I squared my shoulders. I'll kiss whoever I want to, big guy. No, kiss Kane. Why not? I stuck my jaw out. Jealous. My muscles relaxed in coincidence, and I roamed a hand over his bicep. Ben, you kiss me. Ben and kiss Al. He let my arms free and stepped back no. Yes, I stepped after him, my arm wrapping his neck, but he would not let me move him to me. My posture fell and I sounded wounded. Oh, come on. I know you want to. Then N kissed Tal after Kane kissed Tal. His eyes slit head and he sneered. Kiss not good not. Not good. I reared back a step. He didn't like the kiss. Was I bad? Maybe I was. Maybe he never wanted to kiss me. He just got caught up in the action. Ouch. My air fell into despair and my voice was mournful. Oh, okay then. I turned from him and wouldn't show him I was hurt. I made a big production to smooth the fur on the ground near the fire. Okay, I get it. Me to movement and all that. He didn't want me like I wanted him. That was fine. I'd back off. He sighed and reached for my arm. I threw it off and laid down on the blanket. Night. His voice was soft. Night. I reiterated harshly and turned my body away from him. I was done. Chapter 25, No Women Third Eye for Bullets. I woke with the sun slivering between the trees. The fire was still crackling beside me with no end to be seen. But my eye caught on three things placed purposefully beside the blanket. A large blue lily, a handful of raspberries, and a folded piece of cloth. Lifting the cloth between my fingers, it unfolded. It was a basic straight head shirt without sleeves and the same soft leather that the N's pants were made of. Looking down to my bra, my shirt had been ruined with those cockroaches. Had the N made this for me? It looked like it would fit perfectly. I scanned the area and there was no trace of him, so he must have been on his morning abandonment. I put the shirt down and ate one of the sweet berries while I twisted the spectacular lily between my fingers. It was velvet soft and smelt like heaven. It was making it very hard to decide if I was still mad at the N or not. Maybe I should have just went with Kane. I wanted females now, not necessarily my flashlight. Maybe I'll just go it on my own now. Setting the flower down, I twisted over my shoulder to see my back wound. It hadn't been hurting since the N's medicine, but was seeming grimy after sleeping on it. Though I knew not to get off the blanket again if I didn't want to be woken up covered in roaches. The stream still trickled by, and I figured it could use a good washout before the N got back in me. Or I needed to start walking again. Stuffing the last 3 berries in my mouth, I dropped my pants, keeping my underwear on. I was ready for a slight bath. My long hair whipped around, and while it had been catching every tree the day before, it wasn't dirty enough to need a wash. So I pulled out the ponytail holder and made a twisted, messy bun on the top of my head, securing it with the elastic. I was sure not to win any beauty contests looking like that, but what did I need to worry about looking pretty for? My eyes rolled internally. Maza bawled I already wanted to get laid. He didn't care about my ugly top knot. I pressed myself down in the water and clenched at the morning chill. I was more of a lava hot bath person, but the water barely went over my thighs, so it's not like I get a soak anyway. Laying down, I scooped up a handful of cool water and poured it over my back. I knew I was washing away my stitches, but then N's basket was still near the fire and he had a bunch of those leaves still. It was good to get a thorough wash. All I needed was to get it infected and need antibiotics on top of everything else. After a few minutes of rinsing, I stood and found a sunny patch on a nearby rock and went to sit and dry off. I listened to the morning birds and closed my eyes, trying to picture myself back on my farm. The warmth of the sun radiating down, the sounds of swaying corn in the fields, the scent of baking strawberry pie, the taste of fresh pea pods eaten right off the vine. I missed it so much. And not for the first time. I wondered what everyone was doing back on Earth without me. I missed my family. I missed my animals. I missed my home. For a few minutes I just absorbed it in. But this was my life now. That was some other time. I let out a sorrowful breath and stood, a new resolve to be better for them filling me. I'd stop moping and just do. I came off the rock and walked to my pants and boots, placing them over my mostly dried self. Picking up the shirt, I gave a sad smile. Then Anne was still trying to help me at least. Or maybe he just didn't like his brother seeing so much of my skin. I snickered and put the shirt on, looking down and examining myself. It wasn't too bad. Straight down from the sleeves, but wide enough for my chest and plenty of movement for my arms. The bottom just danced around the top of my pants, so anytime I was going to need to reach for something, it would become a belly shirt. But it was so much better than hiking around the forest in a broken brought up. Benen's to note exclamation announced his arrival, and I turned to him. He paused a step when he noticed the shirt. I looked down and held the bottom out. Thanks. It's nice to have a shirt. He stepped to me and I kept looking at the shirt, unsure how to act after I gave him the silent treatment before bed. The pads of his fingers pressed on my chin and made me look up at him. He was softly smiling with warm eyes. I gave a cautious smile back. Sorry. That end like L happy. I shrugged and turned my head from him. Suddenly he yelled. I londel edo lied. He panned at my sad bun until he was pulling pieces out bit by bit again. He using ain't. I complained and tried to slap his hands away and run from his grasp. One arm locked around my stomach while the other ripped the band out, letting my hair free. Bihika ilonda. Bihika ilonda. He then smoothed down my hair with a sigh and stepped back, letting me go. I stared at him confused. He watched back stoic. It was the second time he ripped my bun out. The moment sticked on as the dots started to connect. He then blinked and started walking away to collect his basket. My hair. I asked his bag. This whole mess had started the first time I let my hair down. He had pushed me away right after. He had many freakouts every time I tried to put it up. He was loving on me only until he saw my hair. That's it, isn't it? My hair. Maza has something to do with my hair. You hate my hair. He started rummaging through the contents of his basket. A new sense of purpose overwhelmed me. I then rummaged into my own pouch and brought out my pickaxe. Well, how? We can fix that. I hooked a handful of the long locks into my hand and placed the knife against it. In that moment, I was only thinking that I didn't want to be tied to some crazy guy that just wanted to mate. Not that my hair was nearly a prized possession. I had been growing it so long. It was a piece of me like an arm or leg. I wasn't thinking of how I'd feel once the hair was finally chopped. And I pressed the blade to the strands. It was not the swift cut I was hoping for, and I really had to saw the knife to cut any pieces at all. With my grunts of work, he finally looked over and brow pushed together. When a dime-sized lock fell to the ground, his eyes went wide with shock. I don't want you. I tossed another piece to the ground and gripped to cut more. To hate my hair. My knife was seized from my hand in a panic and was yelling to the heavens. I longed to let go lied. Long as a. Sunsen. He grabbed the strand from the ground and was pressing it around my head like he connected again. Stop it. I swatted his rattling hands. It won't go back on. It's done. Hair is dead. Thann stepped back from me, the strand flowing over his hand, and he stared at it with horror. I grabbed it and threw it in the fire. It burned to a crisp in seconds. I glared up at Thann. I don't have to have long hair. Hair kill. He grabbed my arms, face horrified and enraged. I am a. You am Elengani Winoski you Maza you and Ilonga Alisa go wide. I growled and broke from his grasp. I didn't have my knife anymore, but I could still get rid of my hair. Bending down, I held my handful to the last heat of the fire and the tip started to singe. I was in Thann's arms again before I'd lost even to inches. I sneered up at him. No hair. I held out the burned ends. No Maza. He released me and stepped back, now a worry of contemplation on his face. We both regarded the other until Thann broke the silence. His voice was soft and sincere. Here kill. No here. No Maza. His tone quieted mine and I agreed. No Maza. No Maza. No hair. He scrutinized. No Maza. He stepped forward, a hand lifted to stroke my cheek. Yes, Thann. His voice was perfectly deep and extremely throaty. I swallowed at his touch and nodded. My body fully racing a 180 from anger to aware. Another step brought him clear into my personal space, only an inch from brushing flush against me, and my heart started racing. Mate Thann. Did I want to? With him? Yes, why yes. He then pulled my body tight against him, the heat radiating through my every pore, and he caressed the back of my head, brushing his lips against my cheek. Kiss Thann. Yes, and all time stopped when his lips met mine. His kiss was soft and sweet, like some first kiss on the big screen. Just the perfect amount of pressure and warmth that undid my insides like a zipper. Soon, I was aching for him and deepened the kiss myself, letting my fingers roam over the shape of his torso. Each touch was burning like a fire, and our kiss became more needy. Presses were harder, movements faster, but every feel magical. Mate, he whispered over my lips. My eyes didn't open when I goad. Mate, against his. Yes. I'll love you. My eyes opened to a hooded smile, and I reached my hands to hold his smooth jaw. He reached one hand away and kissed over the palm. My hips flooded with heat and anticipation. Taking a breath, I gathered my courage for the next part, but I already said yes to mating. I wanted him. Slowly I took the new shirt over my head and unhooked my bra. I licked over my lips, moistening them, and watched his eyes roam over my body. When his eyes met back to me, I curled my hands around his wrists and gazed up to him, my heart pounding in my chest. Come. He let me guide him back to the fur, my makeshift bed by the fire. and I pressed him down to it, a massive grin taking over both our faces. The sun was nearing lunchtime when my eyes opened after a short, lovely nap. I was laying on my back, the net on his side, using his arm to hold up his head. He was rubbing a warm hand over my stomach. "Hi," I said with a dreamy, satisfied smile. He leaned over and kissed me. "Is it time to get walking again? Or can we just stay in bed all day?" I smirked. He just kissed me again and leaned back to rest on his arm. His hand was still sliding over my stomach, and I looked down at it. I placed my hand over his to stop his movement. "What are you doing?" His hand moved again, not bothered I was trying to stop him. "Baby," he said affectionately. I giggled at his pet name. Oh, wait. He meant he thought I was now pregnant. Oh, I laughed and moved his hand off. "Maeve gave you the birds and the bees talk, huh?" "Well, but not this time." I shook my head. "You don't have to worry." No, baby. No, baby." He looked confused. I leaned up to my shoulder and poked around at the rod in my arm, letting him see the edges. "This is earth medicine. Earth medicine equals no baby. So you can take me all you want. Medicine." Yeah. I decided how to explain it and sat up. I tapped at my back. That seems I was too distracted to remember hurt for the last hour or so. I swiped over some leftover white dried powder. Indawo medicine. No hurt. I tugged on the birth control implant. Earth medicine. No baby. He gasped in horror. His eyes widened like a dragon was bearing down on us, and he scooted back off the blanket, muscles stiff. Earth medicine. No baby. No baby. Benen's breathing came in ragged puffs and he stood, his hands massaging over his hair like ridding a dreadful headache. I sat up to my knees after him. "Yeah, that's right. What's wrong?" He just started shouting. "Earth medicine. Ngab earth ias elizakables yin iazadam fixes the okubu lala izinimi." I bent back hope at Kyle. No. He grabbed a fallen piece of wood and threw it into a neighboring tree, splintering the stump in anger. "Then," I cried in disbelief. "What is wrong with you? Settle down. No baby. No baby. No baby." Earth medicine. He continued the frenzy. "Dude, calm down." I started to get nervous and began putting my clothes back on. No baby is a good thing. I don't want to take care of a baby right now. That's a lot of work. He punched a few trees as his fight slowly drained from him, and he walked into the brush, plopping down on a fallen log and dropped his head to his hands, whimpering. The Nen now looked like someone who was just told they had lost their parent. Heavy sounds like sobs and whines came from him. I tied my boots and inched over to him, sitting beside him. Rubbing my hand calmly over his back, I made him look at me. "You okay?" He looked out over the trees. No tears from his eyes, but sadness drowning his face. "No baby." "Yeah." I nodded. Like I said, no baby is good. Benen's eyes slit in anger and he spat his signs at me. "No baby. Not good." He yanked my arm around and felt around for the implant himself. "Chill baby. No good. Earth medicine no good. Chill baby." Oh, I tried softly. Well, this doesn't really kill a baby. Just makes it so I can have one to begin with. Eisen is e gugu kanti earth ayabulala nj. Okanenchkeo. He dropped his face in his hands again, but back to sadness. "El here." He spoke into his hiding spot. "Indawo. No baby. Indawo no females. Females hurt sick. Kill." Sighing, he looked back to me, desperation warring him. "Earth yes, females. Earth yes, males. Earth yes, baby." He reached and squeezed around my hand. "Indawo males. Males. No Indawo baby. No Indawo female. No Indawo females." My face read confusion. He nodded. swallowing hard. Maeve. Marek Spidey. My fated mate. Lights flashed around me and my wounds spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. And Lost Era and Doll Baby won. He then stared me straight in the face, eyes strong and purposeful to truly get his point across. 1-1. First babies. Molly and May's twins were the first babies on the Ends planet. My heart stopped and face pale when his words were finally understood. I would have fallen off the log in fear had he not quickly grabbed around my arms, centering me. "Then," I cried in red. "What do you mean Molly's twins are one? There are no children on your planet. There are no women. No females. Not one." He shook his head and let my arms go. "No females." He agreed, then stood off the tree and stared into space, leaving me to live his nightmare. "Females hurt, sick. Women got sick. Kill. They died. All of them. Surely not all." No wonder he was hoping for us to make a baby. No children on a whole planet. That was so mad. I couldn't even try to contemplate it. To children. That's all his planet had. Holy freak. How are they supposed to populate with no females? They'll all die out. Then N will die. Kame will too. Marek Spidey. My fated mate. Lights flashed around me and my wounds spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. Maeve will. No white. Maeve's line will go on. But that's because of Molly. Molly the Earth Woman. Molly had a baby. That's why. That's why all the Earth women were here. That's why I was here. My insides plummeted with the realization. That's why the women were transported to this planet. Whatever higher power being was out there did not want the Indawo people to die off. As Earth women, it was now our mission too. Marek Spidey. My fated mate. Lights flashed around me and my wounds spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. Have children, and I had mated. But I couldn't have children. My eyes traveled to my inner arm, not with the implant in. The medication would work for another 3 years. Could the Ends planet last that long? I surely wanted children, but did I really want them already? No, not really. That's why the implant in the first place. Yes, I wanted kids, but in my early 20s. I was so young. My mom would be happy. She loved being a grandma mom. I wouldn't be able to tell her she had another grandbaby. I'd never get back there. What if I could? Was that my ticket back to Earth? Maybe once children were given, we could go home. That entity that brought us women to the Ends planet might allow us to get back home after we completed our mission. But wouldn't that mean that Molly's mission was complete? Kay never said anything about her disappearing after the twins were born, though. Men obviously couldn't feed the babies. Of course, they'd need us longer. But how much longer? Maybe we were specifically chosen to help. Gia was a pediatric surgeon. Surely the men here would need help with medicines for babies. Molly was a teacher, maybe even linguistics. She was the translator. The children would need to learn. Maybe Lisette and Maza OK has similar value for a planet with no children. But what about me? I was a YouTube influencer. Dumb. Obviously, that wouldn't be needed on a planet with no electricity. But no. Going deeper, I was prepared in so many emergency situations. I knew how to handle myself in the forest, get water, hunt. The women would need a buffer and someone to look to for survival until the babies came. Was that my role? Well, that. Or I knew all about animal husbandry. I gave a snort of a laugh. I had a farm. I knew how important it was to have the species thrive. And then N species needed to thrive. But I'd do it. I was considering it. Why was I considering it? A year for a baby. Maybe another year to care for it. Then back home. I mean, I'd already slept with an N anyway. Getting that far was half the battle. My head started nodding and my mind started to set. I'd do it. I would give the N his baby. I'd give this planet life. I'd baby myself out and then earn my ticket back to Earth. But first, the stupid rod needed to come out. I didn't even think about it and just stood. More conviction than had ever sailed through me moved me forward. Crouching in front of an N's pack, I dug through the riches for my stolen Pekeknif, but his dagger was hilt up to the side. It had filed a dragon. It had to be so much sharper than my silly Pekeknif. I took the dagger to the N and held it out. We need to cut out the medicine. Kill medicine. Use it. He took the dagger in trepidation. I grabbed a random stick beside him and stuck it between my teeth like I'd seen so many Old West shows do for holding in a person's pain. Then I bent and showed him my inner arm, guiding the knife point at the base of the rod. I spoke around the stick. Cut it out. I'm ready. I closed my eyes tight and bit down on the stick waiting for the pain. But as the minute ticked on, the stab never came. I opened hesitantly. Then N. He was shaking his head disbelieving, the dagger held loosely in his lap. Ungabia knows if Eze no lan yael. And kick Swanya and Gallo. Come on. We need to have a baby. Then I can go home. He sighed and guided me to sit beside him. No, then N hurt hell bad. Well, it's just a little hurt. Then Indawo medicine. I tapped my back. His voice was incredulous. Emit hyen ge kais izu conquinero kai wnalo. I didn't know what he said, so I just grabbed the knife from him. Forget it. I can do it. Biting down on the stick hard again, I pressed the tip against the rod and made my battle cry. Kya. An instant later, the N was back a handful of paces, breathing rapidly, and the dagger in his hand. No, her tail. I stood after him, pointing at the rod. With this thing in, we can't have a baby. I need to cut it out and I can go home. I sped forward to grab the dagger from him. My attempt was laughable considering he was now clear behind me in some unseen movement. I twisted to where his growl came from. No hurt. No hurt means no baby. I threatened. No hurt. No baby. He stepped back shocked. Yes, so give me the dagger. His face hardened and he looked away from me. He waited a beat before answering hopelessly. No baby. No baby. Yes, baby. Your world has no females, remember. That's what I'm here for. He turned and started trudging back to our camp. He was replacing everything in his basket when I ran after. Come on then, N. It's just a little hurt. Shaking his head, he shouldered the bag and then kicked dirt over the remaining coals of the fire. No, then N's baby. No, then N's baby. What's that supposed to mean? I stood back, puzzled. Wheelbarrow was his only reply, and then he was walking. With a sigh, I followed. I was never going to get off this stupid rock. Thanks a bunch for joining me on this tryst with a werewolf. I hope you had an amazing time exploring this mysterious world with me. Make sure to subscribe, leave your comments and likes, and I'll see you in the next tryst. Bye for now.